In this video, Stuart Hessney, editor, toy soldier collector in Historical Figures magazine, shares his toy soldier collection. My name is Mark Silverthorn, and I'm the social media chairman of the Ontario Model Soldier Society. Today, we have a very special guest, Stuart A. Hessney. Stuart is the editor of Toy Soldier Collector and Historical Figures magazine, the premier magazine for toy soldier enthusiasts. More information about this magazine can be found in the description to this video. Stuart is an avid toy soldier collector, and today he is going to share some of his collection with us. Now, Stuart, I am impressed by your magazine and your personal toy soldier collection, but I am most impressed about how you persuaded your wife to display a large number of toy soldiers in your bedroom. Stuart, as a young lad, did you ever get into any trouble when you were playing with your toy soldiers?
Another friend of mine in my neighborhood, they had a dirt basement, and I'd take all my Airfix World War I figures, British, French, Americans, and I had biplanes, and we set up train tracks, and we dug trenches in their dirt basement, and generally speaking, I would be the Allies and he would be the Germans, and our idea of wargaming was when his parents weren't home, we would turn off the lights and flick little firecrackers at each other's armies. And we would turn on the lights and we would count how many we each knocked over, and that's how we would determine the victor in that day's battle. Well, this went on for a good while until one day his parents came home too early and all the smoke was still hanging in the basement, and we got in big trouble. I can still remember sitting in their living room being yelled at about what the heck were you thinking, like we could have burned the house down or something, but we had fun.
Yeah. Stuart, should individuals collect toy soldiers for the sheer pleasure of it, or should they collect toy soldiers as an investment?
Don't collect as an investment. That's just crazy talk to me. Do it because you love it.
Can you share with us some of your favorite items that you have in your personal collection?
That's like asking somebody who's your favorite child.
Well, you don't have to tell us who your absolute favorite is, but just like some of your favorites.
Well, to try to singling some things out. Besides collecting, as editor, I've been lucky enough to have some, conceive and have made some premium figures, as like subscription premiums. And one of my favorites was a Gunga Din figure. I think Gunga Din, the 1939 movie, it's action-packed. There's so much comedy. At the end of the movie, the sequence at the end of the movie where Gunga Din climbs to the top of the temple and he blows a bugle call to warn the colonel that he's about to be ambushed. And, the Indian Army deploys, and it looks like it's dire straits, but they deploy, and like you time it. It takes 6 minutes to wrap everything up. I live in the southern Adirondacks along the Hudson River, just a few miles south of Lake George, and Samuel de Champlain looms kind of large in this area. And I don't know if most people realize it, but the same 1609, Samuel Champlain came down this way with his Algonquin allies. They had talked him into coming along with them on an expedition. And he was trying to get geographic information. And he was a great explorer. And they ran into a larger party of Mohawk warriors. And at this time, the combat was a little more ritualistic. The Mohawks even wore wooden armor, and they would fight in a close order kind of formation. And they'd have shields. And so they encountered each other on Lake Champlain, but they met at night. They agreed to have a battle the next morning. They kept Champlain and two companions hidden. The next morning, the two war parties meet, and the French Indian allies part ranks, and out steps Champlain. Kind of a smaller man. He's got his armored helmet. He's got a breastplate on, and he lifts up his arquebus, and his first shot killed. He called them chiefs, but they were war chiefs, not like tribal chiefs. He killed, basically his first shot killed 3 of them. And the Mohawks didn't know what to make of this. Who is this person? It's like a man just landed from outer space. And just as they're about to recover, Champlain's 2 companions who are on flanking woods, they fired shots, and that was it. The Mohawks had it. They ran for it. Well, the significance of this is that Champlain and his allies turned around and headed back up to Canada, to the Quebec area. Champlain had found a Quebec, and this was significant because it was 1609, and if they had followed their plan and continued to portage to Lake George, and then got into the Hudson and kept going south, this 1609 is the same year, a short time later, when Henry Hudson sailed the Half Moon up the river that has his name. If, let's say, you could at that time you could navigate up the Hudson a little past where Albany, New York stands right now. So I like to think about one of these kinds of moments in history where, what if Hudson had gotten up to the site of today's Albany and the French flag was flying there, or even if Champlain had made it all the way down to Manhattan Island. Just these kinds of twists in history fascinate me. So I was at a local auction many years ago. There was this figure of Champlain, and I put in bids. I like to leave bids so I don't get carried away at the auction and then wait to see what happens. And I won virtually all the lots that I bid on, but they included I think it's 100 millimeter figure of Champlain. And at this time, Emery Risley Miniatures, which many collectors will be familiar with, was only about a 25-minute drive from my home. So and I'd love to go there and visit Bill Emery. He was, still alive, one of the nicest people I've ever met, and I'd love to just go talk to history about him, and he would show me how figures were sculpted and cast. So I learned a lot about behind the scenes stuff on our hobby. One time I decided to bring the Champlain figure to show Bill. He held it in his hand. He flicked a wad of gunk off the leg that I didn't even know was gunk. In a matter of moments, he replaced a sword that I didn't know was missing. But he was like, "How did you get your hands on this?" And I explained how I got it at this auction. He says, well, he had only made 5 of these figures for the Hudson Champlain commemoration in 1959. What's the math on that? 300 years? 400 years? I'm the prodigal son of a math teacher. I can't remember. But anyhow, they made one for a local historian. They made one for Fort Ticonderoga. Bill kept one. They made one for the owner of Fort Ticonderoga, and they made one for Princess Beatrix of the Netherlands. She's the queen now. She had come for this Hudson Champlain commemoration, and these figures were made as to commemorate it. So one of them was given to her. So who my figure belonged to, I don't know. But they only made 5. So that's one of my favorite figures, just because it was a dumb luck thing. Besides the toy soldiers, I've been collecting headgear since I was a kid. I think the first thing I ever got was a World War I French Adrian helmet that my dad bought for me during a trip to Gettysburg or something like that. But I think the one that means the most to me is one of the most recent ones. Darrell Dean. He had, as a teenager, he was probably underage, but he was so tall, he got into Irish regiment in British Columbia. And so that was always, he had a great fondness for that, even as he went on to become a brigadier general and all that in the British Army. And he wrote an article for my magazine about for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth. The Britons made all kinds of ceremonial figures, including route liners, including the Inniskilling Regiment. They wore the Irish cabine beret like he wore when he was a cadet. And the whole upshot was that figuring out that Britons modeled them wearing the cabine pointed the wrong way. The figures were made wrong, tilted this. I can't remember. I'd have to go or look at my shelf, but I can't remember if right or left is right, now, which one is correct. So, Darrell and I talk all the time, and we share pictures of our collections, and we become really good friends. He's just one of the nicest people I know. I get a package in the mail from Darrell one day, and actually I have it hanging on my other computer here. I open up the package, and he sent me his own Irish cabine from back when he was a cadet. And I know how much this means to him. So you can imagine how much receiving this from my friend means to me. This is probably my most precious thing.